What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Today is December 8th, 2017, day 43 of my paper trading account, and today was a very tough day for me in the markets. Although I'm up $200 on the day on my net profit and loss. But as you guys can see on my commissions, I paid about 270 in commissions today. And the reason for that is because I was all over the place today. I had, my rules were basically thrown out the window. My mental capital was just depleted after like 30 minutes of trading, just because every trade that I got in wasn't working, and then once I would cut my loss 20-30 cents down, it would just spike right back up, and it was just messing with my head to an extent where I kept jumping into a trade, and trying to just make money. And most of for those who do watch my videos know that this is just a practice account. But I have been really trying to treat it like my actual account. And because of that, I feel like whenever I am down or whenever I'm having a red day, I don't feel good about it. So I did a lot of revenge trading today. I did a lot of just lucky trades that worked out at the end, where I kind of went up, and I managed to close green. But I'm not considering this day by any chance a good day or a green day. I think it's just green on my profit loss, and my week didn't end up bad, but I'm definitely going to have to take the weekend and just kind of reset myself, and come back into the markets Monday and have a clear head, and get back to what I was doing beginning of this week. The first 3 days of this week, I was doing really well. Yesterday I had a losing trade, or a red day, and because of that carried forward, I think, to today. And my very first trade was red, and it just kind of became a thing where I kept getting into a hole, and at one point I was down about $2,100 today, and so I managed to climb back, which is, now I don't know if that's a good thing that I managed to come back. I feel like if I had a real account, and even if I had this much value, if this much equity and buying power in my real account, I still wouldn't been able to come back like I did today, because this is a paper trading account. I think for me to go short is a lot easier, because it doesn't matter if my broker has shorts available or whatever the case is. I can just go short. And that's what I did today. In order for me to climb back, I basically played the downside of the stock and managed to lock in some good profit. But we'll go over my trades now. I'll start with GLBS. So this is my December so far. Closing the week about 935. Definitely over my weekly goal. But today I'm lucky that it's a green number. But I am not happy with it being green, because it was very choppy. I was down, like I said, I was down a lot of. About $2,100 before working my way back up, and I'll go over most of it and kind of show you guys what exactly happened and what I did. So this is GLBS. Now GLBS had an after hour move, and then pre-market the high was 210. 210 was the pre-market high, and then it opened, and it was kind of basically 2 was acting as resistance right over here. 2 was acting as resistance, 210 was the pre-market high. So as soon as the market opens, now one thing I'm actually going to do starting next week, that I think will be better for me, is really, really, really try not to trade the first 10 minutes of the market open. I think after 10 minutes, I find good opportunities, or I understand which way that the stock is more likely to go. But the first 5 minutes or the first 10 minutes are just too volatile. They're just the stock hasn't picked a side yet. And again, the reason I said I'll try, because sometimes the first 5 minutes are the best play for the stock, and I don't want to restrict myself from missing that, because sometimes you do get that one trade that's setting up perfectly pre-market, and then the market opens and it basically just spikes, and it runs through the pre-market high, and next thing you know, you're up 15-20 cents on that name, and then you can lock in your profits and start your day on a good foot. But today, I was expecting kind of same on this. So the market opened, this first candle basically touched 2, and then it got rejected. It pulls all the way back down to this 185 mark, and then it starts moving back up. I actually wanted to jump in right here. I believe this was, I'll move this down so we can see. But I believe this one was right here, let me just put this actually right here. I think it's a good spot for it. So, right over here, 195. So I wanted to actually jump in right on the break of 195 for the first candle to make a new high, and then look to basically look for a move past 2. I missed that quick pop, but I decided to jump in at 2. Now obviously it was still pretty fast, so I had to be quick. As this candle was coming up, I think it took 195 and it jumped right to 198 and then 2. So I jumped in at 2 with 1,000 shares, and let me just get my entry here. So my fail price was 199. So I got filled at 199. It breaks 2 and it touches 201, and next thing you know, it gets rejected. As soon as it got rejected, the stock dropped from 201 all the way down to 194, 195, I think it was, and then dropped down to 190. So right away, I was down, 10 cents. And at this point, I'm kind of like, well, I just got in, it got rejected. Now, in hindsight, what I should have done is cut my loss right there and let it go. I had a small position. I would have been down, $100 or whatever it was, 10 cents. And I should have cut my loss. For some stupid reason, I decided to give it a second. I was like, you know what? Let's see if this pops right back up and I'll sell, because I don't want to have another losing day to start with. And that was my mentality. I was thinking I don't want to start my day with a red trade. And sometimes mentality like that can really affect you, because what ended up happening is, as you guys can see, this went all the way down to 176, and my exit on this was 178. So I basically sold right here. That's where I sold, from 199 selling down at 178. That's I'm giving up 21 cents on this stock just because I didn't want to cut my loss at 10 cents. And that ended up costing me. Right away I was down 210 on the day, on the name, and my day just started and I'm red on the day. So what it did to me mentally was it made me obviously not, I didn't feel good. I was like, no, the stock should have worked. Again, I'll link my video from yesterday into the description down below, because I talk about the same thing. I talk about the mentality issue. Sometimes what ends up happening is that you take things personally when as a trader. I've noticed that a lot about me, and I've seen that on other traders, and I've seen that on Twitter and YouTube and so on. A lot of the times traders, we take things personally when something happens like that. Like to me, it became a personal thing. Like, why would it get rejected at 201? Like, it was a clear sign that it should show strength. Like, why is it showing weakness? And because of that mentality, I didn't cut my loss right away, because I thought, oh, it's just rejected, but it'll pop right back up. Because I had a bias about this. My bias was that no, this stock has to go up. But if you know what, I shouldn't even have formed that bias, because look in the past, look at the daily charts here. So looking at daily, you guys can see every time it spiked up, every time the stock spiked up or gapped up, it ended up closing red. It moved, just over here, for example, it opened at 217, went up to 226 and crapped. Same thing here. This stock is known for, gapping and crapping. So for me to try and go long on this gap, thinking that it has to run, is obviously not the market's fault. It's just me not taking time enough to understand the previous chart history. I should do this way, because for some reason it's opposite. So I should understand the previous chart history, just weird. Previous chart history. There you go. And understand what the stock has done in the past, because there's a high probability that it is going to do the same thing. Even if you go back here, it gapped up here, it crapped, on high volume. Back here as well. Look, the stock gapped up, didn't close red on the day. So every time this stock has gapped up, it usually closes red on the day. Maybe one or two times, it didn't, but 80% of the time it closes red on the day. So for me, right away, this should have been more of a short. This should not have been a long trade. This should have been a short trade. I should have been looking to short it. If it fails this too, I should have been looking to short. For my entry should have been 195 or something for a short, and looking to cover in the 170s. Like, that should have been what I would have done on this trade if I was thinking straight. But nonetheless, a good lesson for me to learn. And, again, taking this weekend to just kind of reset. Had a good week still. My first 3 days were great trading. Stuck by the rules and so on. But the last 2 days obviously have been a bit of a roller coaster. So I'm glad it's Friday. I'm glad we're done for the week. And then we'll come back with a fresh mind and with a fresh brain and kind of focus and get back to the basics. That's what I need to do. I need to always stick to the basics for now, because they've been doing really well for me. Now, the next trade, I'm not even going to discuss too much about it, just because the way it was and the way everything worked out on this was just I don't even know what was going on. It was not a good trade, to say the least. It was not a good trade. And sorry, let me just fix this here. So right here, basically. So PXS starts running, right? My first entry on this was around 7.4. So as soon as I got out of the other trade, the GLBS, I was just looking for something else to trade, just because I was already down 210 on the day and I need to make that money back. And again, revenge trading. It's plain and simple. It's revenge trading. I need to work on it. I realize it, I see what it is, and I just need to find a way how to fix it. That's literally what it is. It's just a mindset. There's nothing else wrong. It's nothing crazy. It's just a mindset switch that I need to make. And from then, I would stop making these. I would most likely stop having these roller coaster days as soon as I make that switch. So PXS, I get in at 742, so or 942, so probably around here somewhere. Let's just go into 1 minute, because I think that's what I was watching on 1 minute, and then I went to 5 minute after. So yeah, right over here, 42. Just looking for my entry right here. Yeah, okay, so I got in on this trade. Now, this wasn't a bad entry point. It just didn't work out the way I thought it will. And then because it's such a low float and it was choppy, it was very choppy this morning. The spreads and everything was just crazy. And I think that's exactly how it was when it was going up to. Like, the spreads were pretty big. You just had to be on the right side and let it kind of work out. So what happened was I got in on this entry point right here at 740. Let's see, what was it? Not 7, sorry. These updates are just killing me. I need to update it, but I just haven't been doing that. So 742, I jumped in with 2,000 shares at 510. That was my fill at 510. So right here. Now, obviously, just looking at it, that's not where I should have jumped in. My fill price should have been 5 right here. High of this candle was 499. 5 should have been my entry point, and I should have looked to sell on this pop here, because the high of this was 520, the high of this is 520. It got rejected and it basically dropped on me. I got in 510 a little too high. I was watching it, but I just wasn't fast enough, and I need to stop doing that. That's another thing. If I miss my entry point, I shouldn't chase it 10 cent higher, because that 10 cent is where I'm looking to lock in my profits, especially if I'm going with 2,000 shares. I'm looking to sell it, 10, 15 cents up. So I shouldn't chase it. That's one mistake I made on that, and I think I did that yesterday as well. So definitely something I need to keep in mind and be conscious about in the beginning, until it becomes, until I become subconsciously competent. I think that's the right word for it, where it becomes an automatic nature to me that I don't chase it, 10 cents or even 5 cents higher than my entry where I wanted my entry. If I want my entry at 5, I want to get in at 5.501 at most. I don't want to get in at 5.10. So I got in at 5.10. The stock basically goes up to 5.20, gets rejected, and drops very bad on me. My entry was 5.10, and then I sold some at 4.80. The reason I sold 1,000, so I got even 2,000 shares. I sold 1,000 shares at 4.80 just because I wanted to reduce my risk, and I sold it on this candle here. Basically, it dropped. I held through this actually. It dropped all the way down to 4.60. So 40 cents. I'm down 50 cents from my entry. I got in at 5.10. The stock is trading at 4.60. I'm down 50 cents on 2,000 shares. So I'm down $1,000 on it. It pops up right over here. Goes to 4.80. I sold half just to kind of lower my risk. So I sold at 4.80. So from 5.10. So I took a $300 hit on that, right? On that first sell. I'm still holding 1,000 shares at 5.10. And basically, the reason I was holding that because I was waiting to see if it'll pop more over, and then I'll look to kind of sell that. I didn't want to sell the whole 2,000 and lose 600 on it. I just kind of wanted to see what happens. The dumb human being, emotional trader in me made me want to buy another 1,000 shares at 4.95 to lower my average. Again, I talked about it yesterday. I would definitely link my video in the description. Highly recommend you check it out. I talked about it that I should not do this, and I did it again. And see, it's these things. In trading, what I've noticed is that most of the times it's just the same things that come and haunt you, and it's a psychological defect. It's nothing to do with the markets. It's nothing to do with your strategy. It's nothing to do with what the stock is doing. It just has to do with your own mental capacity or your mental wiring. Like your wires are all different. So if I would have just kind of not, if I didn't add another 1,000 to my position, because when I added, it brought my average to 503, and now the stock is trading at 480, 485, something like that, and my average, I have 2,000 shares at 503. My unrealized P&L was about $600-700 at that time. So just looking at that made me scared. So what I decided to do is I decided to sell my whole position at 2,000 shares, including the 1,000 that I added. I sold the whole 2,000 at 475. So somewhere around here I sold it. Basically, I believe it was a bottom. Yeah, so it was the low of this candle where I got out at 475 because this candle got rejected at 5 and then started moving back down. So I was like, oh no, it couldn't even break 5. It couldn't get over 5 again. This is probably going to go down to the 460s, 450s again. Let me just cut my loss and be done with it. I sold the 2,000 shares at 475. And now I'm down 1,100 on the day. That's including the 300 plus the 2,000, whatever I was down, plus the other 210. I'm down 1,100 on the day, and I'm just kind of like, whoa, like what just happened, right? It was all too panicky. I could see myself. I was super stressed. Like the good trades that I usually have are the ones where I'm not stressed. I'll get in and I'll get out. I'll get in, I'll wait for it. I know what I'm looking at. I know what the levels I'm looking at. They'll hit. I'll take my profits and I'll walk away. This trade from the very get-go, as soon as I got in, was a stressful trade because I knew I missed my entry. I knew the stock moves too fast for the break of 5. It moved super fast, and I just pressed the hotkey and I jumped in. And as soon as I jumped in, I was stressed before even taking that trade. So, in hindsight, now I can see how I was feeling at that time. But in that time, I was just thinking about, well, how, I'm down 210 on the day. How do I get back into the green? How do I get back into the driver's seat? And I took a stupid trade. I chased it is essentially what I did. If I would have gotten in 5 and I saw this rejection here at 520, I probably would have just sold at 502, 503 and just get out, break even or whatnot, right? But me getting in at 510 and not even having enough time for it to touch 520 and come back down, it was all too fast, and it just dropped on me. And now as it dropped, I'm panicking. I don't know how to manage my risk on it because it dropped so much. from 510, I'm down 50 cents, and it just, so because of all that, I didn't know how to manage the risk. I didn't know what to do, and that's what ended up costing me on this trade. And then right away, as soon as I sold, the next candle basically goes all the way up to 530, and now I'm more pissed because the stock left me, it kicked me out, and very funny to me because this is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. I can't let it get personal. I can't think of it, well, it kicked me out and I have to get back in and take advantage of it, or I have to make money on it. And that's exactly what I did. I jumped right back in at 6. So basically I jumped in right here. Look how high I'm buying at this point. So I missed this whole ride, and I'll go back to 5 minutes now because that's what I was watching at this point. Sometimes it just, I don't know why, but this thing kind of freezes up on me. There you go. Oh man, there you go. Okay, so I'll remove this here. But so I jumped in at 6 here, right around here. It got halted. Sorry. The stock got halted, I believe from here 950 to 955 it was halted, and I jumped in at 750 or so, 955 at 6. I jumped in with 4,000 shares at 6. Now, as you guys can see the pattern here, the pattern is that if I'm in a losing position or if I'm not in the driver's seat, instead of managing my risk and taking smaller positions, I increase my size to take advantage of 10-20 cents move, but with a bigger size I can make more profits back and cut my loss. And not the best strategy, guys. It works sometimes you get lucky. I got lucky today, but sometimes the same strategy is gonna destroy my account, and I need to fix it before I go live. So if it requires me to go paper trade another 3 months and fix this strategy to a point where I don't do this ever again, or I don't do this for a month consistently, then I feel better. But right now I am not in that position. So this is what happened here. I jump into the stock, on the break of 6. As soon as it got halted here at 580 something, the stock opens, and it opens at 6. Or just below 6, 595. And as soon as it started popping, I jumped in with 4,000 shares. The stock goes all the way up to 624. I was up about 20 cents minimum on it, because 24 was the ask at one point, and it was hitting it, but then it dropped. But I could have easily gotten out at 620. And that's exactly what I would have done if I was in the driver's seat. And that's something else I realized today is the way I trade stocks when I'm losing and I'm trying to make money back, the greed is crazy. Because the reason I didn't sell this at 620 with 4,000 shares, which I would have done if I was, if I was green on the day, I would have sold maybe at 610, 615 or 620 and locked in another $800. The only reason I didn't do that is because I was down 1,100 and I wanted it to go to maybe 30, 40, 50 before I sell, because I wanted a bigger chunk of the profit off this. And it ended up costing me again by basically getting rejected and just crashed. It went down so fast from 620. It started hitting the bid at 610 and 605, then 6, 590, 580, and next thing you know, it's all the way down in 540. And I sold this at I got in at 6. And I got out at 575 is where I sold the whole position. So now another 25 cents I'm down. Basically just around here I sold it as it was basically crashing down on me. I got out on the bid. And now I'm down another on 4,000 shares. I'm down 250 times 4 is $1,000. Yeah, I was down $1,000 on this again within seconds. And I was at one point I was up 800, and all of a sudden I'm down 1,000, and I'm locking in that loss. And next thing you know, I'm down 2140 on the day, and my brain is just completely mental capital is gone. I don't know what's going on. I can't think. And now seeing all this red, it just makes me want to trade more, and that's exactly what I did. I kept trading, but I was taking short side because I realized how this stock was dropping super fast. Like every time it went up, when it'll drop like, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 cents, like quick. So that's what I did. I shorted it a few times, basically all in here. So this whole, for a good about 15-20 minutes, I shorted it about 3 times, or 2 times, sorry, with 5,000 shares each. Again, as you guys can see, my position size just kept getting bigger and bigger. I shorted 5,000 at 604, and then I covered at 601. Sorry, 3 times. I shorted it 3 times. And then I shorted, what was this? 528. I bought it again. See, I did like bunch of trades. I don't even remember what exactly was I doing, but I bought on this as it dropped basically from 645 all the way down to 503. So a huge, about more than a point drop within 15 minutes. I bought it on the bounce because I figured the bounce has to come anytime soon here, because all these people who shorted, or people who are long, or new people who are trying to buy would probably look to buy on any little bounce. So I got in at 528 here, somewhere here, and I basically sold in the 540s, and this time I took 4,000 shares on that, so I made some money back. And then I shorted again as it basically bounced, and it wasn't really running, it wasn't really starting to move, so I kind of felt weakness in it, so I shorted 5,000 shares at 535, or 534, sorry, and then I covered at 515, and then I shorted another 5,000 shares at 538, and I covered some at 518 and then some at 520. So basically this move all around here is where I was shorting it. And again, since I'm on a paper trading account, I can short any stock. I don't have to wait for to see if we have borrows or whatever. So that's why I'm not considering this a good trade or a good day. Although I'm green at that time, I was just doing it just so my poor paper trading account doesn't lose over a month's gain. At this point, I was just waiting to go green and kind of call it a day, or at least lower my loss to down $300-400. So I kept shorting it. I shorted it twice, went long on a bounce, and basically locked in, made that money back that I was down. So 2140 I was down, and managed to climb all that back up on these 3 trades on PXS, shorting it, then longing it, then shorting it, and basically just it was a headache. I would not recommend this strategy to anyone. I wouldn't even recommend to myself. I hopefully pray to God I never do this again, because it's not the right way to go. I was all over the place today. Definitely looking forward to this weekend and kind of regrouping my thoughts and going back to the basics, waiting for my good strategies, waiting for the strategies that I like to trade, and jumping in at the right moment and looking for that quick scalp on trade. 10-15 cents is good profit, unless you're getting a stock that has higher range, or it's forming a nice trend and you just let it ride. But that's not what I'm focused on right now. I'm just focused on momentum. I want to get in and get out, get in with a decent size shares and look for that 20 cent is a sweet spot for me. If I can get 20 cent profit on all the trades I do, I would be very happy, because even if I'm going with 1,000 shares or 2,000 shares, getting that $200-400 is a sweet spot for me right now. And I think I need to get back to that, look for A-quality setups, and go from there. Anyways, guys, have a wonderful weekend. This probably video, I wasn't even trying to have a long video, but it went. Link in the description for the previous video, highly recommended. And link in the video. Please subscribe if you do watch my videos. I'm just trying to document here as much as I can, and then I want to have a good documented journey of when I do become, in the back of my head, I know one day I will do this full time. I will be successful at it, but once I do get there, I want to have a pathway, basically a path where people could start from day one of my YouTube channel and follow along to when I am successful, and kind of so I have credibility. That's what I'm aiming for. I want to have that credibility. I don't want to be another Twitter or another Instagram guy that kind of shows out of nowhere and says, hey, swipe up and I'll teach you how to make this much money and so on. I want to have the credible source. I want to say, hey, you know what, I've been doing this for 5 years or 6 years or however it takes me to get to that level, and I want to say, hey, I there was a time where I was sitting in my house and paper trading and losing $2,100 and coming back up and being on that roller coaster, and now I'm trading live and I'm doing this full time and I'm making good money and so on. So please, give me a follow, give me a subscribe, and check out my previous video. And I link my Twitter, I link my Instagram on there. Give me a shout, give me a follow. Let's connect, comment below, and all that good stuff. And have a great weekend, guys. And I'll see you guys Monday afternoon or Monday evening. I'll post my next video for Monday, and it should be a lot better. So take care, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye.